Hey, everybody. This is the Stuff I Heard podcast, episode 228. Today happens to be the 27th of May, 2020. And I got Josh Treadaway here, and he's doing something with his camera.
What's up?
What were you doing?
It looked like there was some dust on it, so I was trying to see if I could get a better picture or not. So
I had to do the same thing. Luckily, I had one of these. You know how when you buy glasses, sometimes they have the little microfiber? I wiped my lens. I was like, it looks a little fuzzy. Why is it fuzzy?
Yeah, your lens looks really good. It could also be the fact that you have an iPro and I have a Chromebook.
We're not going to talk about technology. It's not limited. Listen, you do with what you can, what you got, right?
Hey, I love my Chromebook.
You got the cool accent wall behind you, so I mean that's pretty awesome.
Hey, that's all about Chrissy.
Yeah. So anywho, I wanted to talk to you specifically for a couple reasons. One of the reasons was I finally watched the last of the Star Wars Resistance cartoon that's on Disney Plus. And my wife asked me, she says, "What do you think about it?" And I was like, "It's not as good." And she was like, "Why?" And I was like, "I don't know. Let me think about it." So I thought about it, and I've come to the realization that both Rebels and Clone Wars had Force users a lot in it, and you saw a lot of lightsaber action and stuff like that, which is very exciting. Resistance is more of a story of pilots, which is advertised. If you pay attention to the way it's advertised, it has like ships flying in the logo and stuff like that. And I thought, okay, yeah, because Poe Dameron makes an appearance and BB-8 is in it. And then it focuses around this one character who's a pilot, and he's supposed to be like a spy. And then, the story continues. What is interesting about it is it takes place like just before one of the newer movies where Poe Dameron is introduced and Rey and all that other stuff.
Right.
So you get to meet BB-8 and Poe Dameron and of course, Princess Leia is now Princess Organa,
right.
or General Organa, whatever they call her. She's in this a couple times, and I'm like, okay, well, that's done well. You get to see Kylo Ren. You get to see the redhead guy who's supposed to be the big bad, First Order leader, the guy who like makes all the planets explode when he does the thing. Anyway, this takes place right as that's happening. So you sort of see it from a different perspective, but it's not as good because it doesn't have the same heart. To me, the Jedi thing is all about like heart. It's all about mystical type energy and powers and stuff like that. Things that are
and the responsibility to come with those powers.
Yeah, and a lot of choices that are not easy choices. And with those choices, there's always a question of, am I doing the right thing? Is this for the good or for the bad? Even in their own decision-making and problem solving and stuff like that. This is about pilots, and it's sort of goofy, and it's sort of not for me.
I haven't watched but a couple episodes, but to be perfectly honest, what I got out of it was it's for the kids that are too young to appreciate the new movies, to try to draw them in early enough so when they get older so they can respect the movies, they will watch the movies and try to fall in love with it like we did with the original.
Maybe.
Disney was trying to build a ready-made target audience with the Resistance.
Yeah, you may be right. I did notice that the main character that you're following has grown up a lot between season 1 and season 2, and they even address it between the characters on the screen. Ding.
Yeah.
Is your Pop-Tart done?
Yeah, exactly.
You better get that stuff off that George Foreman.
Oh, here we go. We already talked about that one in the reunion. We don't need to keep that one going.
So anyway, but yeah, maybe we're supposed to fall in love with this character and watch him grow on screen as the series progresses. I mean, like when I go back and I think about the way Rebels was done in the beginning, I was like, okay, I'm supposed to like follow this Ezra Pritchard. He's supposed to be like the guy. But as the series went on, you really care about this kid, and the development of the series gets better, the animation gets better, the story gets better, and you go, okay. Same thing with Clone Wars. In the beginning, Clone Wars
with Osaka. I mean that.
Yeah.
That was the one for me. I mean, like I thought the whole show really was centered around her and her growth in the Jedi Order.
Yeah.
And then the failure, and then the excommunication, and then come back to basically the redemption.
Yeah. Well, and maybe all of that is, like I said, just so that we can watch this character develop on screen in front of us. So I don't know, man. I'm watching it regardless. I mean, I'm in.
Well, you got to figure most of the people that our generation that had kids, we grew them up. We brought them up with 3PO and Leia and all these. So now they have to bring a new set of characters in, because even though they're in the part of the beginning of the Resistance, they're going to die off pretty quick. I mean, in the movies they killed them, everybody's gone. So they now have to create new characters for these people to follow and want to go buy their action figures and have spin-off movies and things like that, such as we had the Solo movie, and supposedly going to do they did the Mandalorian show, and they're going to do supposedly they're supposed to do a Boba Fett like movie. I don't know if they're going to ever do that now since the Mandalorian has been made.
Yeah, I don't know. There is discussion of a character wearing Boba Fett's armor in season 2 of The Mandalorian.
Yeah, I saw a little bit of that.
Timothy Oliphant is supposed to be wearing his armor, and it's said that it's going to be a storyline of a guy who stole the armor from Boba Fett. I don't know how they're going to spin this. It's going to be interesting to see. I like Timothy Oliphant. He's kind of a cool guy, but I'm kind of curious if he's going to tell the story of what happened to Boba Fett and now he's wearing the armor because he took up the arms or whatever. I don't know. It's going to be interesting to see. I mean, obviously you can't. That guy that played him is not available to play him, but
right. Well, the thing is a lot of people don't know the story. I mean, only your really true, I guess, fans. Everyone thinks that Boba Fett died in the Sarlacc pit,
right?
And the story is he did not. It took him quite a while to get out, but he did get back out. Maybe they're going to build on that.
Well, and there's a story that the guy who played Jango Fett in the Clone Wars movie, that he's going to be a voice in the new season or have some part in the new season. I'm not exactly sure how they're going to spin that, but it's going to be interesting to see how they do that too. I've been watching a lot of they have a show called Gallery, which is about the behind the scenes stuff of The Mandalorian. And it's been very interesting to see Jon Favreau sit around with other creators and the different directors and talk about how they came up with the ideas and the way they shot certain things. And this past week, I watched one that was all about the technology of it and how they shot it with these really cool screens that were very interactive. And they used a video game engine to produce what you see on the screen from what was behind. So there's this neat perspective thing of how they shot it inside of this building, basically shaped like a big circle with a roof that has nothing but LED screens on top of it, so they could change the way everything looks within an instant. So you hit a button and boom, you're in outer space, and you hit the button in your warp drive and everything's coming at you, and they can.
So it's kind of like an upgraded planetarium trip.
Yeah, with moving equipment in, so you don't know what's part of this background and what's actually scenery they're interacting with. But they could bring in part of a ship and make it look like he's in outer space, or they could bring in when they show them riding those toad-looking things. It's like just the top half of a cone that they're riding on. But they do it all with these neat looking screens, and then it looks like he's actually riding in the background, and it's like, oh, this is so cool. It's very interesting to see the background of it, but they also talk a lot about why they shot the characters the way they shot them and how it was sort of a benefit to have the Mandalorian wear a shiny outfit, because there's a thing to do with lighting. Whenever they do weird CGI, they can't get the lighting right or the shadows right, but with him being basically chrome, he reflects the light of the stuff around him. Yeah. So they were comparing some of the stuff that George and Spielberg had done, early on with the early movies, shooting in Morocco and stuff like that. And they started talking about the challenges they had and how doing it like this is something that George Lucas has said he wanted to do all along.
Right. That's what I was thinking as well.
Yeah.
I mean, imagine what he could have done with what the technology is today.
Yeah. So literally this last episode of the Gallery Mandalorian thing was about technology, and Favreau just explains it in such technical terms that even my brain was like, slow down. He's talking too fast, man. I kind of want somebody who knows a little more to be next to me and go, what he's describing is this thing, and this does this. And I go, oh, okay. Yeah. It's like you're sitting next to someone smarter than you across the table from smarter than them, and you're like, I need a translator. Can you translate some of it?
with your inquisitive nature, I'm surprised you didn't pause it and then go look up exactly what it was he was talking about that you didn't understand.
I'd worked all day, so I was tired. I just watched it, and I watched it and tried to keep my eyes awake, and I was like, wow, this is really fascinating. And I was like, man, I'm so glad these smart people are out there. I mean, if you'd have told me when I was younger that I'd be interested in crap like that, I'd be like, no, I'm not. No way. But, here we are. We can grow and change, and there's nothing we can't do, right?
Absolutely.
So, speaking of growing and changing and nothing we can't do, how about Joe Rogan getting $100 million to go to Spotify?
I saw that. I saw you post that. I was like, good Lord.
Holy crap.
I mean, that's the goal, right? That's the ultimate goal, is to get to that point where they want to buy you because you're so good. It's like what happened. It's like what happened with Howard Stern back in the day.
Yeah, when they basically
launched XM Radio,
XM and Sirius, yeah, whatever that was that he went to.
He pretty much was the reason why they launched that. They bought his contract, and he pretty much started it all before it got where it is now.
The weird part is I've tried to do some research, and I can't even figure out how to load videos on Spotify or how to watch videos on Spotify. So that's going to be something they got to get going soon, especially if they're going to spend this money on Joe to start January 1st.
I'm sure they've already got it in the works. I mean, I'm sure he had it in his contract that all that stuff was worked out.
Yeah. Well, and I've heard him talk on multiple podcasts about it. And he was like, I'm sick of being censored. I'm sick of people telling me I can't say this or say that. He said, I'm not out there trying to start anarchy. I'm not trying to hurt anybody. I'm just spreading information, trying to be silly, trying to make people laugh, and interviewing some really interesting people. And sometimes the things they talk about, they're experts in, and YouTube wants to say, you can't say that. And they were like, all right, we'll leave you alone. You just keep doing what you're doing. And he's like, show me where to sign. I mean, and I kind of feel the same way. I mean, I would imagine other creators are feeling a lot of the same way. I mean, granted, right now, YouTube is the source that everybody goes to watch videos, but it doesn't have to stay that way. I mean, that was something Casey Neistat talked about. For me in the beginning, he was one of my, mentors of, this is how you grow this. And he would say stuff like, if you're recording, this is what you want to focus on. If you're shooting this way, don't worry about this other crap. Focus on this. And he kind of just cut out all the BS of things that didn't matter, but also would remind me of hey, once in a while, spend money on new technology because it's important, because people like when things look well or they sound well. And, there's a lot of little lessons that I learned from him, but then they had a demonetization sweep where he lost 40% of his money. And he was like, I'm bringing you guys, he has 12 million subscribers. He's like, I'm bringing you guys eyeballs to content. Why are you suddenly cutting money? And so there was a deep dive into that. And he was like, listen, he had to break it down for himself on camera. And he goes, this is just a format. We're using this program. Doesn't mean other programs won't come along. Right now, this is who I like to shoot with. This is who I like to put up videos with. But it doesn't say that that's going to be the way it stays. And, it's a free market. Anybody can be a competitor. Who'd have thought I'd use Zoom? I never heard of Zoom till this year.
So this pandemic, I never heard of it either. I knew there was Zoom for meetings. I thought it was just a business thing.
I did too. I thought, oh, this must be one of those corporate things where someone's in Shanghai and someone's in Australia. And
now I'm wondering, when you see all these interviews on Sports Center and stuff, where you got. I'm wondering, have they been using this the whole time? Is this what they've been using, stuff like this?
Probably.
We could have been using it for 2 or 3 years.
Probably, yeah.
No. Oh, I'm sorry. They were the same ones. I thought they were mine. I apologize. I'll put them back. Okay, sorry. The ladies are leaving for lunch.
I wanted to look around the corner, but I can't see around the corner.
Yeah, I can pick you up and take you. But they're leaving, see?
Bye. Oh, they left.
Yeah,
oh, well.
They're going. Anyway, they're going to lunch, so.
Okay. But, yeah. So, I thought that was interesting. I do think a change is on the horizon for everybody. I think that it's going to happen quickly.
Yeah, I was going to say a lot sooner than later. I mean,
yeah,
you're going to have, Rogan's just going to be basically the pin that starts the whole thing.
Yes. Yeah, that was an investment that Spotify said, we're changing the game today. And they are. I mean, this is huge.
That's what it is. Like I said, I equate it to when our generation, when Howard Stern moved from radio to XM.
Yeah.
Because he didn't want to be censored on the radio anymore. And look what XM is now.
Yeah. Well, I mean, XM's in trouble as well, but that's for a different reason.
They're in trouble for a little bit based on the fact that everybody's got their own, aux Bluetooth to their cars. But I mean, I listen to mine all the time because I don't, But I mean, what I'm saying is like when it first came out, I mean, like it was.
Oh yeah, when it first came out, holy crap, it was amazing.
I mean, nowadays you get a free you get a free sample when you buy a new car with XM every single new car.
Yeah.
You know,
but you also have competitors now. I mean, you have so much streaming available online. You got Pandora, you got Amazon, you got Apple. I mean, almost everybody's got a streaming service now. I mean, even Spotify. I mean, that's another one.
I just like the fact that, I mean, it's all in one. You know, I've got my football, I've got Netflix comedy, and then I've got my music. So I mean, it was just easy for me. And then when they you know, obviously they want to charge you more, but if you call and say, hey, there's something, you know, I don't really want to pay that much, I can't afford to pay that much. Like, well, can you pay $60 for the year?
Yeah, that's crazy.
Done. I can pay $60 for the year. They wanted me to pay like almost $50 a month.
Yeah.
And then he offered it me for $60 for the year. I'm like, yeah, let's do it.
Now, to me, that's the same model that cable companies have with their customers. They're just going to charge them a ridiculous amount of money. And at a certain point, they're going to piss them off, and somebody's going to figure out a workaround and be like, you know what? I'm done with you guys. I mean,
like when you pulled out your Dish Network.
Yeah. When I pulled out DirecTV and threw the Dish away.
Pulling the satellite up off the ground.
I was never happier than when I put that thing in the mail and sent it to them. I was like, good riddance. Yeah. But anyway,
I felt the same way whenever the source that I use.
Yeah. Oh yeah, absolutely.
When I found that, and I was like, are you kidding me?
Yeah.
I mean, so yeah, I understand what you're saying.
You know, I looked last night on YouTube, and Joe Rogan had just had an interview with Kevin Hart, and it's not the first time they've done it, but they talked a little bit about Kevin's accident and talked about how he got hurt and how he got back into shape, and talked about how they find that they motivate each other. And Kevin kind of made a correlation between Joe Rogan and Michael Jordan. He talked about the Michael Jordan thing that's on ESPN, you know, showing how dominant this guy was. And he said, he told Joe, he's like, I don't think you realize it. He goes, but you and Michael have a lot in common because you're so driven, because you don't wait for anybody's approval, because you, in your mind, you're just going to work all the time. Like your brain just works, you know, I want to do this because I want to do this. And this is the only way I know how to do it. And you're not looking for the endorsement deal. You're not looking for this will look cool on Instagram or whatever. You're just doing what you do. And if you just keep doing that, then it works out. And he goes, and I've tried to do it. He talks about The Rock, you know, and he's like, there's a certain thing about people like us that just pushes forward. And he said, but you need each other to kind of motivate each other. I mean, he says, there's times where I don't feel like getting out of bed. And then I'll look on Instagram and The Rock's eating pancakes, or, you know, lifting weights, or Jocko Willink is up at 4:30 going, all right, it's time to do this, and goes for a 14-mile run. Or, you know, I look on Joe Rogan's and he's doing kettlebells, and I'm like, oh God, I got to do it. I got to go. I can't sit here. But he's like, you know, since his accident, he said, now my focus is not on the pursuit of more for me. Now my pursuit is my family. He's like, now, he said, used to be, it'd be 6 o'clock and I'd be like, I gotta go home, you know, but I got this to do and I got that to do. And he said, in my family, he said, I was married to my career and my family was my side piece. And he said, now
it's family.
He said, 3 o'clock, I'm out of there. I'm walking out the door. I don't care what we're doing. We'll do it tomorrow. Deal with it. He said, I set priorities now and my family comes first. And he's like, but it took that accident. He said, that accident was the best thing that ever happened to me. He talks about all the benefits of it. It's a really good, motivating podcast. I mean, but it's the kind of conversation that you expect to have between two guys like that. You know, it's the sort of thing that you, if you're feeling like, you know, God, I wish I could get out of my funk, turn on something like that and you go, you're right. Why don't I get out of my funk? Why don't I, what's stopping me? Holy crap. You know,
your own self is the only reason that you don't. I mean,
yeah.
I'm in that right now. I mean, like, I know I should probably be doing more during this pandemic because I'm out of work and not doing anything, but I've been in a funk.
You know, I watched the video the other day. This driver next to me, he showed me, he goes, have you seen this? And I was like, what? And he showed me the video of the guy who made the ninja hand puppets fighting each other with the sound effects.
Oh, yeah.
It's so silly. He goes, I can't stop watching it. This is amazing. And I was watching it thinking, It's actually pretty genius.
It really is.
Because he's got notebook paper in the background with like symbols of like, Asian looking stuff in the background, like he's in a dojo, and he's come up with this storyline, and it's just literally a dude with a camera, probably on the side of his face, because he's talking and moving his head, and it's moving
like
with him.
A GoPro kind of thing.
And I'm like reverse engineering, going, how did he shoot this? Okay, he's got lighting here, he's doing this, and I'm going, this is genius! Holy crap! Because it doesn't even have to have a story, but he kind of has a story, and it's very cool. It's very click worthy. It's short enough that you could just watch a little bit of it and be like, that's pretty cool. And then you see another one, you're like, oh, let's watch this one. I mean, but this guy I was with, he goes, man, this dude could make a whole movie about this, and I'd watch it. And he watched it.
That's kind of where he's probably going to go next. I mean,
yeah,
you get enough people, and then
I was with the guy. I was driving us down to Augusta, and he literally watched it for like 45 minutes. And I just kept looking over, and I was like, you're still watching that? He's like, this is amazing. I really dig it. I was like, wow. Okay, cool. Awesome.
Did y'all trade places? Did he drive back, or did you drive the whole time?
No, I drove down there. We had something to go down there for.
Oh, okay. It wasn't like driving a truck. Like you weren't.
No.
Oh, okay. You were going out for a work conference kind of thing.
No. I had to take him to relieve a driver for something.
Oh, okay.
So I took him down there. So
I got you.
I can't really say why, but anyway.
You don't need to. I just, for something, I was thinking that you were like driving a route with a guy and you were driving the truck and he was watching videos.
Yeah.
I was like, no, you're the boss man. You shouldn't be driving and him playing videos. You should be the other way around.
Well, yeah. It was one of those deals where I signed off on the car, so it was my car. So
I got you.
All the information was in me, and it's just better not to switch it off in that case. But whatever. But yeah, it was pretty interesting. There's a couple of historical things that have happened. One of them today, SpaceX, Elon Musk's, I'm going to go to outer space program.
Was it first people to be launched back in space in over 10, 15 years?
At 4:43 today, a guy named Doug Hurley and Bob Behnken, Behnken.
I was hoping you'd say Odeker.
Bob Behnken. They're going to be on the SpaceX with the new Falcon 9 rocket. Holy crap. I mean, this is not NASA. These guys are former NASA astronauts, so it's not a NASA thing, even though NASA's sort of helping out.
But they know that it's as quality as NASA would have.
But like you said, it's the first time in 10 years a manned space program from America, and this is by a private enterprise company who came up with this. And of course, you'd want Elon Musk doing it. Jeez, I mean, put the smartest minds on it. He's like, I'm one of those. Yeah.
Well, yeah.
I have a team of people. We'll put a man on the moon. Sure, no problem. But they're going to the space station, and that's really cool. I mean, I watched the video where he did the unmanned rocket with the Dragon capsule, where they separate, and as they separate, in the past you watch videos of rockets going to space, and the booster rockets fall and they burn up, and then they go into the ocean, and then they're just debris, and they're supposed to go collect it at some point, but who knows if they actually do.
You probably don't,
but he spent the extra money to figure out how to reuse the rockets so that they actually land on a platform in the ocean. And he has GoPros attached to it, so he can show you live on YouTube. You can go on YouTube and look it up.
I didn't see that. No, I haven't seen that at all.
It is holy crap amazing, like Star Wars amazing, like Star Trek amazing. They break off, and there's cameras on it, and you get to watch in real time this thing fall, and at a certain point, it engages these rockets that these side boosters that correct it to stand up and slow it down, and it lands vertically on the platform in the ocean. I'm like, holy crap.
Wow.
Yeah. So all they got to do is go out there and tow it back in. They're like, we got it. Yeah.
Yeah, they don't have to go submerge under the ocean, look for it or anything like that. So
no debris, no mess. You get to reuse the rocket. Holy crap. That's amazing.
That's millions and millions of dollars right there recycled.
Just amazing. It's amazing that that somebody could think it up and then make it. I mean, you would hope that would happen as time goes on. And I guess we're finally at that point of our lives where it's really happening. I mean, and it's just amazing. I mean, holy crap. So yeah, Doug Hurley. I'm going to be watching this when it comes on TV. It's at 4:43 today, or not TV, but on YouTube, because he'll put it on YouTube on the SpaceX channel. But yeah, Doug Hurley and Bob. I wish I could say his name better. Benkin. We'll go with Benkin. That sounds good. Yeah. So anyway, big deal, huge day in history. And the not so great news: George Floyd in Minnesota. Terrible incident. It's heartbreaking, and there's nothing that anybody can say to make it right, and that's sad. If anybody doesn't know, and you're listening to this podcast now, and you've been in a hole for a while, Tuesday there was an incident where four police officers apparently were arresting a man, and they tackled him to the ground, put handcuffs on him, and one guy in particular put his knee on the guy's neck, on the back of his neck, and choked him, and he died. And the guy cried out that he couldn't breathe. And this is not an isolated incident. This happens a lot. And this is, as you were put on Facebook, this is why Colin Kaepernick wanted to take a knee. He wanted to speak out and say, this isn't right. And, you and I talked about it then, about how I felt like Colin took the wrong approach. And I was wrong. The more I've thought about it, the more I've thought, why aren't we all taking a knee? Why aren't we all saying what we're all feeling? Even though I didn't like the way it happened then, if it affected you, no matter where you were, if you were at work, if you were in public, if you were at your family's house, whatever, that's a moment where we all should have taken a knee and said, we got to do something different. We have to have a change in the way we handle police and the way that we arrest people, the way that we approach people. I mean, I understand that there is tremendous amount of stress and pressure on policemen. And that was one of the conversations that I had with Ian and Mike when they came on the podcast. They're police officers up in Ohio. And even they said, listen, that kind of stuff makes us sick. I mean, just imagine if it's your job to, maintain the peace and to help people and at times arrest people. But then you see something like that where someone way oversteps their bounds and there's nothing that you can do to make it right. And suddenly you're seen as the bad guy, even though you're trying to do the right thing. But even they were like, that stuff like that makes me sick. And I was like, yeah, absolutely. I mean, but
I honestly believe there are some really good people out there that want to just kind of keep the peace and do what the actual shield is supposed to do. Yeah. But then you've got those, power hungry idiots out there that don't get that shield so they can do exactly what these guys are doing.
Well, and it's not just that. I think a lot of it is fear. I think a lot of them are not trained enough to know how to handle an assailant who maybe become physical so that they don't use deadly force. I don't think that enough of them are taking jiu-jitsu or, some type of judo or some kind of training that helps them in hand-to-hand combat in case somebody were to throw a punch or something like that. So they don't immediately go to, I'm going to kill this guy,
Right. Well, I don't think they initially intend to kill the person, but I
don't think so either.
They're using excessive force and they don't know how to stop. But at the same time, there are people out there that know they're doing it and they're doing it on, just like the ex-Georgia cop who shot Aubrey.
Yeah.
With his son. That was an ex-cop. He knew exactly what he was doing.
Yeah. Oh yeah, that was premeditated. I don't think this was premeditated. I think part of it was heat of the moment, but part of it was there should have been a moment to realize, hey, I'm going too far. Or his buddies, his partners. I mean, it was 4 cops. His partners should have said, hey, get off him.
True.
There should be a moment of human interaction.
Right. There should be a moment of humanity.
Yes, exactly. And,
go ahead.
When I went to record this today, the reason I text you was like, this is a conversation I want to have with somebody who's going to help me put it into words because I don't have the words for it. I don't have
very many words for it. The only thing I did was based on the fact that I from the beginning of when Colin took his knee, knew exactly the reason why he took his knee. Now, granted, he may not have taken it at the right time, but I actually think it was the right time because it would have if the media had played it the proper way and showed what he was actually trying to do instead of trying to create a problem that wasn't a problem, then he would have gotten his message out.
Yeah.
But because he took it on knee on the, it's like, do you remember watching Deeds, Mr. Deeds?
Yeah.
Remember the first time when he saved the cats and she fielded it all and it was a great story,
Mm-hmm.
but then he replayed it that he was a cat killer. He
Yeah.
said it played better in the media.
Yeah.
This played better in the media to make it about, the flag and because, he was part, he was part Muslim and all this kind of stuff. They wanted to play all the wrong sides of it without talking about what he truly was doing, was trying to bring awareness to this kind of action.
Well, and part of his story got lost in the fact that he's not a very good public speaker.
No.
I mean, he could have had a team of people help him do it, but he did it in the passion of things. But even still, I think that being a super athlete, you tend to not listen to what other people tell you should do because you feel like you're above everybody else. You don't need to listen to anybody.
I don't think it was so much as is, and if I'm wrong, please forgive me, but this is what I understood when it happened. His girlfriend was a very big activist.
Yeah.
And so he was just being, trying to be, mindful of what she's taught him, basically. She showed him, and he reacted in a way that it was just spontaneous. I don't think this was premeditated. I think it was just, look, I want to try to bring some awareness to this. I have a platform and I'm going to try and use it.
Yeah.
And then, like I said, the media decided to go a separate way to try to put more eyeballs on their screen.
Well, I feel like I would be doing myself and everyone a disservice if I didn't talk about it during this episode, because it just happened. I just found out about it. I just learned about it. I just did a research and looked into it and found information. And I was like, if more people don't talk about it, then this guy died for nothing. And he did die for nothing. There's no doubt about that. There was no need for it. And he's not alone. But this conversation has to happen regardless of what's going on with the COVID or the president or election or any of that crap.
100% agree. But we just went through this a few years ago.
Yeah.
Remember the whole NBA, everybody was wearing, can't breathe.
Yeah.
Because this happened. I believe his name was Eric, the guy in New York that was selling cigarettes.
Yeah.
This is, we need the conversation. And then the thing is I think Will Smith actually made a comment recently. Did you hear that one?
No.
He said, it's not that racism is more rampant today. It's just everyone's filming it.
That's true.
I mean, this is not something new. That's what Colin was trying to show. And it's been so long now that social media has become such a big player in everything that now people, and I actually, to some degree, am slightly disgusted. I'm glad that the videos are out there for people, but at the same time, I'm kind of disgusted that people aren't trying to help these people instead of just filming it so they can get, YouTube hits.
Yeah.
That kind of disturbs me a little bit.
Yeah. We've taken we are responsible as citizens. We are just as responsible for his death. Yeah. Humanity is responsible for it just as much as those cops are. Like you said, they chose to film it instead of stopping them or instead of making them stop.
Exactly. I mean, it was done as a joke, but that last couple episodes of Seinfeld, when they were, down there and they got arrested because of the Good Samaritan law, the last episode, it's actually something that I think is probably just common sense and humanity, showing that you have a human side. I mean, if you see something like that, you don't just laugh at it or film it. You try to stop something like that.
Yeah. It's sad.
We've got,
and listen, I plan on mentioning George Floyd in the I don't know, however many next few episodes. I'm going to mention his name as many times as I need to so that people start talking about this on a regular basis. Nobody gives a shit what a white guy thinks, but I'm going to say it because I have a platform and people subscribe, and it needs to be a conversation that we're having on a regular basis, not just with people who look like us, but yes, with people who look like us, because if we're part of the problem, then so be it. We need to have that conversation amongst ourselves. I mean, the more that it's on the tip of your tongue, the more that you're going to have that conversation, the more it's going to be readily available so that people who are idiots out there doing this kind of crap are going to hear it from their family and loved ones and go, maybe I shouldn't be a jerk today. Maybe I shouldn't choke this guy out. Maybe I should listen when people say, hey, he's choking, you can't breathe.
Any positive um, eyes on this situation is a move in the right direction. So as mentioned as many times as you want, talk to people on the street about it, whatever you want to do, however platform, anything that's a positive move in this direction is something that we need to do.
Yeah.
I mean, like you said, I'm just another white guy as well, but you know what? I'm still going to make my voice. You know, like you said, I posted that picture on Facebook, not only because it needed to be posted, but I mean, I've been preaching since the beginning of it about the Colin Kaepernick. You know, obviously it kind of went to the wayside after all this. There's still people that kind of like don't want to watch the NFL because of what Colin Kaepernick did. And I'm like, that's not what it was about, but no one believes you. The media made it out to be something different.
Him as an athlete, I didn't care about. I mean,
see, I'm a 49ers fan, so I obviously did, you know, I followed him a little bit closer than most people.
You had to drink a little bit of his Kool-Aid because he was wearing your jersey. But I really didn't care for him as a player. I mean, so I mean, whenever someone I don't care about starts saying something, I'm like, yeah, whatever. I mean, I guess that was part of the problem. Was he was a character that not many people were like, he's my guy. I mean, it'd be different if it was Brady or Manning or someone beloved by a whole group of people that was, you know, a lot larger number. But it's this guy who's, you know, kind of an okay quarterback at the 49ers at the time. I mean, it's like, okay, well, you weren't really that great anyway, so.
I mean, he took him to the Super Bowl, and we missed going to the Super Bowl 2 years in a row by one pass in the end zone.
Listen, Jake Delhomme took the Panthers to the Super Bowl. He's not that good a quarterback. I loved him. He's not that good a quarterback, I'll be honest. Trent Dilfer won a Super Bowl, only threw 5 passes. He's not that good a quarterback. Doesn't matter that you got him there. Some quarterbacks are just not that great. The team is better than the quarterback. I mean, that's where the team comes in. Good defense, good running game. Hey, special teams, running back. I saw a meme recently. It had a thing of Devin Hester from the Bears, and it says, kids these days will never understand how dangerous it was to kick it to this man. I thought, yeah, that's true.
Very true.
Or one with Deion Sanders in the backfield, like they'll never understand how dangerous it was to throw it anywhere near this guy.
I actually saw one the other day. They were comparing when Deion ever played Jerry Rice, and they always covered each other. Or, you know, and they played each other, and they were showing, you know, times that Deion beat Rice and times Rice beat Deion.
Yeah.
But it was just amazing to watch.
Oh, yeah. I mean, 2 athletes in the top of their prime, fully capable of defending each other, playing against each other. So fun to watch. So fun. Holy crap. I mean, but basketball-wise, I mean, we got to see the greatest play against each other.
I mean,
how much fun was it?
Early on, Bird and Magic, and then you had Isaiah and Jordan, and then Jordan and everybody. I mean,
yeah.
and not just Jordan, Pippen, Grant. I mean, that Last Dance was just amazing.
I haven't got to watch it yet. I haven't figured out how to watch it on my new system, which we can talk about.
You can give me a call off camera, and we can talk.
Yeah. I'm sure you could tell me how to figure it out. But yeah, I mean, I remember some of the greatest matchups ever was like Jordan against Dumars. Nobody thinks about Dumars in that category, but he was the top defender against Jordan. And when you watch them play against each other, it was like a dance. Their body movements were like right in sync with each other. It was the matchup that you would hope, foot for foot, hand for hand, jump for jump. It was intense to watch. I mean, Gary Payton, there was a game. Gary Payton and Jordan went at it, and they were literally shooing all their players away. They're like, no, this is me and him, and it was on, and it was intense, and I was like, this is so exciting.
They actually cover that. They actually cover that game in The Last Dance too.
Yeah, it was exciting to watch
because Gary wanted to cover Jordan in the first 2 games of the series.
Yeah,
but the coach felt like Gary needed to focus more on his offense and not his defense. And then when they switched it, that's the game that, I mean, Gary just shut Jordan down.
It was so impressive to watch.
You don't shut Jordan down 2 games in a row, but it was amazing to watch.
Yeah. Oh yeah. I mean, I loved it. I loved every bit of it. I'm so happy that was our childhood and we got to watch that on a regular basis. I mean,
I don't know if I'd love the NBA without Jordan. I mean,
I wouldn't watch the NBA without Jordan.
I mean, that was the reason why I watched. I watched to watch Jordan and Pippen, and back in the day, you had, you know, with Paxson, and then you threw Kukoc and Rodman. I mean, the whole run. I mean, even when Jordan went to play baseball, I followed his career a little bit in baseball. On top of the fact of following, you know, Pippen with the greatest dunk in history.
Well, everybody wants to talk about Hakeem Olajuwon being, you know, the greatest, and I'm like, well, he did win the 2 years that Jordan wasn't there, so. Good for him.
I mean, yeah. I mean,
I mean, he was talented. Don't get me wrong. He was super talented.
And had a very talented team around him as well.
Yeah. Oh, yeah, absolutely. But kind of helped Jordan wasn't around.
I'll be excited though. The fact that I'm just glad the Knicks didn't win.
Yeah.
As a Bulls fan, I can't stand the Knicks, so I never want to see them win.
I rooted for the Knicks in years later when Richard Hamilton was there. I pulled for them that year, and it was exciting to watch them win then because it was a bunch of stragglers. I mean, just people nobody had heard of, and they put together this ragtag team, and I was like, I don't know, let's see what they do. And they toughed it out and won, and I was like, okay, that's pretty cool. That's the only year I've ever pulled for them. Now, when you go back and watch old videos, it was pretty fun to watch Ewing, as dominant as he was, play against most people and beat them, but then watch Jordan dunk on him. And I mean, I'm sure if Ewing were on camera, he'd be like, yeah, I couldn't stop that dude, man. It's like, it's everywhere.
First and foremost, while we're talking about him, prayers and thoughts for him and his family. Hope he recovers, from this. If you didn't hear, he was diagnosed with COVID. Oh. So much respect for Patrick for, hoping his recovery. Yeah. But no, Patrick was one of those guys that I think Jordan was basically his nemesis. I mean, like from the national championship, when they beat him, and then he could never beat him ever again. I mean, they actually said to Ewing, he declined to interview and refused to watch The Last Dance. He's like, I don't need to watch it. I lived it.
Yeah, no kidding. Yeah. That'd be like asking a soldier to go back and watch, old footage that they took of his war he was in. I don't need to see that. Why would I want to watch that? I lived in it. It's like, I'm trying to forget it every day.
But ironically, of all the Jordan and stuff like that, my favorite clip of all time was the year that Jordan was out and Pippen dunked on Ewing and then stood over top of him. Yeah. That dunk to me is still the most just disrespectful dunk in the history of my lifetime.
Yeah. Yeah, it was. And I think it was one of those things that our friend Rodney took to heart. And I think at that moment, Rodney bonded with him in a way that he really wanted to dunk so he could do that. Because if you ever notice, back in the day when we used to play basketball, Rodney played a lot like Pippen. He was like, I'm just going to come in and do my thing, man. It's just, I'm going to swoop in from the side, and you won't see me. You won't know I'm there. And then, boom, I'm going to get it, Yeah. I think he really wanted to do the slow walk over somebody after he dunked. Wish I was a little bit taller. Yeah. Oh, well.
I was taller. I just didn't have the athletic skills.
Well, I didn't know back then what it took to do it. After I was in the Marine Corps, I served with a guy. Shout out to Sergeant Croft. He was 5'9" and probably 260, but he could dunk.
What?
And he said, when I was a kid, he said, I always wanted to dunk, but I was too short. And I thought, but I'm strong. He said, so I made myself run stairs and jump rope and jump on boxes. And he said, and by the time I was a senior in high school, I could dunk. And I was like, really? He goes, I can still dunk. And I was like, no, you can't. We went to the gym. He was dunking. I was like, holy crap. This guy, like a short Charles Barkley. I mean, so when I came home, my younger brother, Alex, had sprouted to, 6-footish. And he was like, I want to dunk one day. And I was like, listen. And I told him that speech, and I was like, I'll help you. I'll get you to that point. And I got him on the regimen and started making him do stuff like that. And I gave him an incentive to dunk in a high school game. He was a church league. He was playing church league and high school. We were in a church league basketball game. And I told him, I said, I'll go to all your games. If I see you dunk, I'm giving you $100. He was like, really? I was like, oh yeah. I was like, you're there. You gotta motivate yourself to do it. So he got a fast break opportunity and he went for it, and two-hand, guard, and just the whole place erupted. And he's like, he looked at me immediately. He goes, I want my money. I was like, we're going right after this game. And then he dunked like 3 other times in the game, and he goes, that's 300, right? I was like, no, just the one.
I can see him doing the Johnny Manziel.
Yeah.
I can see Alex doing that right at the end.
But he was, he was a broke high school kid at the time, and I was like, whatever motivates you, man. If this is what motivates you, do it. So he got to that point. He was like, I'm glad I could do that now. And I was like, yeah. Of course, it's kind of fun as an older brother to kind of live vicariously through him, and was like, I can imagine doing that. Dang. Good for him. Yeah. Now I know what it's like to be Peyton Manning's little brother, or his older brother, the non-athletic one. It's like, hey, there's my brother. Hey. Oh, well. Got a winning personality. What can I say? I've been watching, speaking of Alex, I've been watching Michelle's videos of their kids.
Oh, the Scarlet cooking videos?
The cooking with Caden and cooking with Scarlett. I watched one today of the Memorial Day one where she's dressed in the Captain America outfit, and she busts out of the box. Hey, everybody, thanks for watching Cooking with Scarlett. And I was like, wow, she's a natural. Listen at her. And I even, on my phone, I even recorded her saying that her brother has more likes. And she says something like, click on me for more likes. Let's see.
Because Cooking with Caden, it has more likes than Cooking with Scarlett. So I want you guys to give me more likes. Give me more likes.
I was like, that is awesome, and I'm going to use that because
you still got to have the cow, but that should also be more your closing.
It should be.
That should be your closing. Give me more likes.
My niece is a natural on the camera now. Who knows? All she had to have was a little bit of competition from her brother.
That's what I was going to say. That competition level, that's just going to push her even more.
Yep. Well, I mean, if your kids take after you in some way or another, one of them has the thing in them to be like Alex and be really competitive. So, hey.
Sounds like she got that.
Maybe. Who knows? They're both going to be gigantic kids. I mean, Caden's almost her height, and he's 3, and she's 6. So, Baby Hulk. Last night, my grandson was here, and he came over and he was telling Dolores. He said, "My mom says I'm like the Hulk." And she's like, "What?" She says, "I'm like the Hulk because I'm big and strong." And I was like, "Oh, he's so cute! Oh, he's so big and strong. He's so cute."
Now, question for you, and I'm pretty sure I know the answer anyway, but you can answer this because I don't have kids, obviously, and never did want them. Parent or grandparent? You loving the grandparent thing where you can play with them and send them back?
Yeah.
But I know the kind of person you are. Did you enjoy kind of molding young minds and helping them, become young men?
Okay, so that's a good question. Here's the thing. When you're a parent, you're not just molding, you're also feeding, clothing, wiping their butts, taking care of them when they're sick, trying to give them the right information. There's a lot of stress involved with being a parent because it's a lot of, you want to set the right example. You got to watch what you say. You got to say the right things. You got to handle situations the right way. Then you have to remember to ask them questions about it and get their feedback. And you got to constantly come up with challenges for them and motivate them. And there's a lot of work involved with being a parent. The joy is watching them go off on their own and seeing them do some things on their own or have their own opinions and handle things the right way. But it's one of those things where if they handle it the right way, you're like, yay. When they handle it horribly, you're like, oh God, I gotta teach you how to do that. So there's a lot of stress involved with being a parent, but it's literally because it's of you. It's the thing that you love and hate at the same time. It's like, listen, I could squeeze your little head off, but I love you to death, you little turd. It's.
See, that's why I kind of figured, you always hear this, always people, I love being a grandparent because I get to play with the kids and then send them away.
Well, our situation's a little bit different with Jared still living upstairs.
True.
If he would move away, it'd be so much better. Listen, if you don't put that kind of stuff out in the universe, it's never going to happen. So you got to constantly say it.
Oh my gosh!
It just keeps moving back home, which is a curse. But yeah, I would miss him more if he wasn't here. My boys are gone. My boys are in Washington State and Arizona. So it's fun when I get a text from them or a phone call and they're like, "Hey, what's up?" And especially if they start sending me humorous memes and stuff that they think is funny, because then I get to see how my sense of humor rubbed off on them, and I'm like, "Hey, it's great. I love it." But having grandkids, I mean, it's a lot less stress. because I'm not worried about every little thing. Like, I mean, once you raise kids, you go, I know how to feed this one and keep it clean and keep it safe. But with grandkids, it's like, hey, let's have fun. Let's play. You want to play? And then it's like you're done playing. You're like, all right, now it's time to go to your parent and let them parent you because I'm done with this.
So that's the reason why I asked. I've always been, I've always heard that the grandparenting is great because of that aspect. But I know you well enough to know that you actually appreciate seeing the work that you put in, kind of growing and maturing.
Yes and no. I mean, the work I put in never resulted in anything yet. I don't have grown kids. I have grown-ish kids. They're growing. They're in their 20s.
My mother. I'm still a child. I mean, I'm still I'm probably the most immature child of all of her children.
I don't know her. I don't know her other children, but you pay your own bills. You don't ask her for anything. If a problem comes up, you figure out how to handle it. That's called a grown-up.
Okay.
You're responsible for somebody other than yourself. I mean, you've got Christy and her daughter, and I mean, you're kind of the dude. So when something breaks, they go, dude, fix this. And you're like, okay. I mean, that's.
I wish that I could say that I'm that guy. I might be the guy that she says, hey, call somebody and fix it, but I'm not the fix it guy.
I didn't become that guy until I was in my 30s. I mean, there's YouTube now. You just like watch a video.
Right. Well, and I will say because of YouTube, there are things that I've fixed that I would have never been able to fix before.
Yeah. And you realize how simple some of it is. And it's just like, oh, I was just intimidated. I could have done that.
And to be perfectly honest, a part of also it comes from you, man. Watching you and you're creating YouTubes of how to do this, how to do that, learning on your own and, trial and error. It's kind of made me want to, take a little bit more responsibility in my life and try to do some things sometimes that I feel like maybe I can't, but maybe I can.
Yeah.
And I'll give it a shot. If I can do it, great. If I can't, I can't. I mean, there's just some things that are, impossible. Not impossible.
I mean, you start off small and you do some things. And then as you learn, you do other things and you go, oh, that works. Let me see if I can do this. You get confidence along the way and you just go to the next thing. I asked my dad one time, I was like, how did you learn to do so much? And he was like, as I got older, I got more patient. He's like, if I screwed up, I was like, well, I guess I got to hire a guy now. He's like, but a lot of it was just out of necessity. I didn't have the money to hire anybody. So I was like, I mean, let me see if I can figure it out. It can't be that hard. And it's just learning every step of the way, but there's a lot to learn. That's the fun part. As the older you get, the more you realize I don't know as much as I thought I did. So you constantly have avenues to learn. And luckily, thanks to things like YouTube, you can learn from it. I mean, maybe Spotify will turn more into
video kind of
media entertainment and YouTube will turn more into how-to videos.
Possibly.
I mean,
because you're going to take the whole thing about YouTube is all about, the copyright infringements and stuff like that.
Yeah.
So you take those away, then all you're going to have is basically creators showing you how to do things.
And that Ryan kid who plays with toys.
I don't know that one.
He's like one of the top earners from YouTube.
Are you serious?
My grandson wanted to watch some of his videos, and my wife's like, what are we watching? And it's this little Chinese kid. I guess he's Chinese. He looks Chinese. Playing with toys. And his parents have filmed it.
That's it?
World. Yeah. And he plays with toys. And, yeah. $26 million last year.
I mean, don't get me wrong. I mean, you got the idea. Think about Twitch. I mean, you got kids watching kids play video games.
Yeah, they're not actually playing the game. They could actually have the game at home, and they prefer to watch someone else play it than them play it. That baffles my mind.
Now, don't get me wrong. I have, because I've been so lack of sports, I have been watching ESPN esports. Yeah. Like I'll watch people play, Madden or, NBA 2K. But I mean, if I have the game, I'm not going to watch some other kid play unless it's like, if something like maybe like, RPG game and they can show me something that I've been trying to figure out.
Yeah.
That kind of thing I understand.
Or a funny thing like Leroy Jenkins.
But like watching these guys play Madden on Twitch, I mean, yeah, it's great. But at the same time, they're not teaching you anything. See, like in the RPG stuff, they actually teach you, places. Like I was watching a video on Facebook yesterday, and it was old school, did you grow up playing video games in the 80s and 90s? And it was the whole end of the level of Zelda when you were in Ganon's, and you were trying to get to the final level. It was the whole thing. It showed you all the places to put the bombs and all this. And I remembered most of it, and some of it I forgot.
I've forgotten most of that, all of it. I've forgotten all of it.
Well, that's just like I pulled. I have an old Nintendo, the old school Super Nintendo, not Super Nintendo, the old school NES.
Yeah.
And I put in Mario one day, and I wanted to see if I could beat it again. And I got all the way, and I did the warps. I wanted to see how fast I could beat it and all this. Got the warps, got to 8-4. I couldn't remember the pattern. It took me an hour and a half to beat the game, and I think an hour of it was just trying to remember the pattern on 8-4.
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, I kind of wonder about that kind of stuff too. If I went back and played old games that I played when I was a kid, if I could even remember how to. And maybe I will. I don't know. I mean, that's one of the goals that I have at 46 is I've said out loud, I want to play more.
Well, you'll be surprised how much you do. And like I said, when I played, I remembered like where little magic buttons were, so I could get an extra man. I would remember I'd go down this tube and not that tube. I mean, I remembered a lot of stuff that I didn't think I would remember, but for some reason I just couldn't remember that. But I mean, you'll be surprised.
One of my favorite games.
I played Metroid. I played Metroid again. I had Metroid as well.
Metroid is one of my favorite games.
You can literally get lost in Metroid for hours and still be in the exact same level.
Yeah. Yeah.
And I did. I couldn't remember. I could not remember how to get to Mother Brain. I could not remember.
It was so much fun to play back then because there was a lot of options of places to go and how to get there and different guns that do different things. And
it was almost an open world platform.
Almost. Yeah. And then they had the hidden levels where you'd end up behind walls and you're like, where am I at? How do I get out of here? What is here? Ooh, cool. It's this thing, and it'd just be some weird thing. You're like, I can't believe this is a thing. Yeah, very cool. Also, I don't know if you ever played it. I think it was on Xbox. The first one, Abe's Odyssey.
No, I never played that one.
Munch's Odyssey or Abe's World, Munch's Odyssey. Very interesting game. You're like an alien dude, and you have this little tiny, almost like a fish with legs that would hop around, and you interacted with this thing to help achieve different levels. And sometimes you were one character, and sometimes you were the other character.
That sounds a little bit like Earthworm Jim.
I never played Earthworm Jim, but I've seen videos on it, and it's probably real similar. Very fun to play. I think it was one of the first games that I bought besides Halo, and just enjoyed the gameplay so much. I played it over and over and over again. But Munch's Odyssey, Abe's World, or something like that. Very cool. When I think back.
I was just saying, some games like that, I mean, I can see someone, wanting to watch them play it because you can actually learn things.
Yeah. Oh, yeah. Yeah, or like World of Warcraft is so complex because you have so many different characters. If you could watch somebody defeat a level that you can't defeat, you're like, how do they do that? Oh, okay, I see. Like you said, you're learning something. But Madden, you're just like, I can do that.
They're not showing you what defenses they pick. They're not showing you why you're setting up this way.
Yeah.
You're just watching people play football, which I get. Like I said, I watch it on because I'm so bored with no sports. I actually do watch it, but I would never watch it on Twitch.
Well, and it's interesting to play with somebody who knows football really well, like my brother, who knows setups and patterns, and this is set up for this, and this is set up for that, and if I do this guy goes here, and I know that, and it's interesting to watch someone like him play because then you're like, oh, he's on a different level than just your average person. But then it's really cool when you have like professional players who know everything really in depth, even if they're playing like as their team. You watch them do audibles, and they're like, where did you pull that out of? But like you said, you don't know what they're doing because they don't tell you because it's just behind the scenes. And while it may be fun for them to play, to watch, I'm like, nah, I don't care. I don't care. But some people do. Some people are all about it.
I'm not trying to discourage people from not watching if they want to watch it. I mean, it's. I mean, like I said, I watch it on ESPN because, I mean, I don't watch racing. I watch e-racing just because I'm so bored.
Yeah. Well, maybe people are watching my stupid podcast for the same reason.
No, they're watching to learn, man.
No, they're not. No, they're not.
To get that daily zen. I
found a surprising number of people have watched our 5-hour podcast, which I'm really surprised.
Are you serious? And by the way, I want to say I was shocked. I did not expect you to put all 5 hours. I thought you would edit it a little bit.
I had too many drinks to edit. I was just like, publish. Good night, folks.
I did when it loaded and it said 5 hours. I was like, holy crap! He didn't edit it. He just put it all on there.
Yep. I just dragged it down there and I put the cow at the end and I was out.
Literally?
Yeah, literally. No, I sat on the couch for a while and drank about 2 gallons of water to make sure I wasn't going to feel bad the next day. Which, yeah. So, thankfully, Mickey Fins has been keeping up with my demand.
Yeah, Have they been keeping up with the press too for Dolores?
Yep. I went there today. They had plenty of each at the store, and I even said, hey, I bought some last week, and a friend of ours said they came to buy some, and there was none, and they were like, oh yeah, we made sure to get plenty because we've had a lot of people ask. I'm like, cool. So, yay.
You got probably about another 2 months for the shandy.
Yeah. As it gets closer, I'm gonna ask them to buy as many as they can.
Are you gonna mass buy at the end of the summer?
Maybe. I've got the space in the garage. I mean, they Dick Leinenkugel put an image of a local bar they have up there in Wisconsin that had the shandy on draft, and I wrote him directly. I was like, please tell me this is coming. He said, right now just cans and bottles, but maybe next year. And I was like, of course, that would really piss off my wife if I had draft shandy.
Yeah, you'd have to buy it. You'd have to buy a kegerator.
Yeah, I'm not doing that. I've heard Bert talk about it. They put a kegerator in his man cave, and he was like, this is a horrible idea. It makes too much noise. You never drink it fast enough, no matter how much you drink. He's like, it's not necessary for a man cave, which he's right. It's a little too much. He had this thing one time called a Hopsy. It's this company that's kind of like a Keurig, but it has small batches of draft beer, and you tap it, and it's cold beer that it's probably maybe 1 gallon a piece. But that way you can, swap it out and try different flavors and whatnot.
I haven't heard about the system.
I don't think it ever took off. I mean, he was known as the partier, so they hit him up and had him have it in the man cave, which I think there's still, like when you watch his videos, there's still an image of it sitting when he's with a guest, is still sitting there.
Kind of test marketed through him.
Yeah, they were like, I guess they were trying to sell him through him because he did some commercials for him, but I don't think it ever took off. I don't know. We recently bought a ice machine to go at a friend of ours' house. Our friend Dan and Lori have a pool, and we were going over there and hanging out and swimming every weekend. And a few of the ladies started talking about how they really wish they had some cold ice so that they could make some drinks out there, or whenever they just want, cold ice to have with whatever. And I was like, they sell those things and they're not very expensive. And they were like, really? And I was like, yeah, I just happened to be looking around on Amazon kind of out of curiosity. I said, they have these small end ones that they fit on your countertop that are like, $120. I was like, that's not bad. And make ice on a consistent basis. They started looking at it and they were like, I don't know, these are like big ice cubes and clunky. And then Dolores goes, what would really be cool is we could find one to make like Sonic ice, that little nugget ice.
Oh, yes.
And I was like, yeah, that would be cool. So I got home that night and I started looking and I found one. It's a little more expensive. It's made by GE Profile. It's called an Opal, OPEL, and it makes nugget size ice. The backdrop is that it's like $530. But you don't have to have a line wired to it. You can actually it has a reservoir you can pour water into.
Okay, so it's not electric.
It's electric.
But I mean battery, but it's not like a plug-in.
It's plug-in. You don't have to plug a water line into it.
Oh, okay.
So what I'm saying is you can
take it outside. You have it outside and just.
Yeah. So they have a pool house that's closed in and all that. But you can just take water, pour into they have a reservoir on the side that you can refill, and it'll make the ice as it needs it. And then it has like a plastic tray in the front that you pull out and a little scooper that you can scoop your ice. Well, the plastic tray, because it's on the front, they realize that it may get hot because it's not insulated on the front so you can see in it. When it melts, it circulates that water back into it and refreezes and makes ice again. So it continually makes ice.
So you don't really lose ice.
Right. And I think it says it makes like 26 pounds of ice a day. So you consistently have ice. Now, $520 is a big price to pay. But let's just say you have a few couples and you go, hey, if we all throw in $100, it's not so bad. You go, I'm on board. Let's do it. So we did it. And, we had it shipped here and went and set it
Community,
up.
baby, community.
Why not? I mean,
Yeah, if you're going over there anyway, I mean, you're all using it. I mean, that makes sense.
Yep, exactly. So,
and speaking, I'm sorry, not to go on a subject off subject, real quick while my brain's still thinking about it. You said YouTube, Amazon. So Greg and I spoke after I spoke to you the other day when I picked up my new/used pellet grill.
Yeah.
And he was saying that you found a really good thermometer that was about as good as what he has, but not quite as pricey as his.
So his is a Wi-Fi thermometer, which lets him look at the temperature while he's at the store, which I don't see the need in, because the Wi-Fi thermometer, when you go Wi-Fi, it makes the price jump up to over $200 for the thermometer.
See, I did find one Wi-Fi for about $129.
It's Wi-Fi and not Bluetooth?
Yeah, it's Wi-Fi for $129, yeah.
Okay, I mean, listen, the Wi-Fi ones are better than the Bluetooth ones. The Bluetooth ones are okay, but there's a distance limit. So, like, if you're walking around in the yard or if you're doing stuff around the house, sometimes you can get too far away from it and it loses connection with you. The one that I have works pretty good. The big problem with mine is I'm supposed to get like an update on my phone where it beeps at you saying, hey, it's ready. There's something wrong with, I don't know if it's software or what. It doesn't beep at me like if my phone is not on.
Okay.
If I touch my phone and turn it on, then if it's ready, it beeps at me. The base beeps, which is great, but it doesn't beep on my phone unless it's open. So it's just, I'm sure it's a software problem with it. I had one time with a company called iGrill. That's okay.
I saw that one on there as well.
It's okay. The big drawback to iGrill is it's very small and sometimes gets knocked off. And if it gets anywhere near water or heat, it melts or shuts down or whatever. And you can't change the battery. And I took care of mine because I ruined one. So I bought another one and I took care of the second one. And it just died after about a year and a half. It just completely died. I tried putting a new battery in it and nothing happened. And I was like, well, this is a piece of crap. The one I have now is, let's see, I've got the app. It's called a Huea. Hauea. Hauea.
Okay.
That's how you pronounce it. I got it for $50 on Amazon. Works fine. It's got a case that you open it up.
How many probes did it come with?
Like 6.
Okay, so that's what I'm trying to. I don't really need 6, but I want to get at least 4.
Yeah.
I want to have one ambient one that goes in the grill, and then at least because I know sometimes you get people that want burgers or steaks cooked different temperatures. So I'd like to have at least three probes.
Well, and I've also found a weatherproof one that's just a waterproof one that's a stick that you just press the button and stick in it. And that one's good for if I have multiple, like it, if I know, okay, so this is how I handle this whenever you say people want things at different temperatures. You have a choice of what you put your probe in. That sounds like a lesson for life, doesn't it? You have a choice of what you can put your probe in. And so like you have different, let's say steaks. Okay. Let's say you have different size steaks. And
right.
Typically what you want to do is you want to put the probe in the thickest of the steaks. That way you get your truest temperature on the thickest steak. Obviously your thinner steaks are going to cook faster. So in your mind you go, okay, if somebody wants one a little more well done, I need to pay attention to my temperature. And when it gets around, whatever your ideal temperature is for yours, you look at the other one and go, okay, let me stick that one and just see what it is. I mean, so that could do it, or you could have multiple probes and be able to look at all of them at the same time. For me, if I use multiple probes, it's because I have many different things cooking. Like I have a shelf on mine, so when I have the shelf in, it comes out and pits in, whatever. I've had times where I've cooked wings, chicken, and salmon at the same time. So I had each different thing probed.
I got you.
And then it allows me to label it on that app, what it is. And that way I could look back at it and see what's going on and say, okay, well, this one's cooking at the right temperature. This one's done. I need to go ahead and pull this one, that kind of thing.
Gotcha. So I'll go. So real quickly on that. So with your probes, do you have the little silicone cover on the tip of them so they're different colors that fit inside the grill? Do you have any problems with those melting down?
Okay, so the tips come off. You take the silicone tip off the end of the probe.
Oh, it does come off and it slides down. It slides down the cable.
The tip is just so you don't poke yourself in the eyeball. It's a safety thing they have to do when they ship it.
No. I'm talking about on the like once you put the probe in. Yeah. There's like a little silicone cover so you know which one
for your hand.
Right. But
Yeah,
they said,
that's so you can label it so you know which one is which on your phone.
right. I saw one that I liked that had like a little ball on it, and
Yeah.
the ball hangs out outside the grill, so you don't have to worry about that silicone melting if you happen to have the temperature a little
The
too high.
silicone won't melt.
It won't?
No,
Okay.
no. It will turn black after you cook on it for a long time,
Well, yeah, I mean,
but it won't melt. It's just not black, but it's discolored. But no, they won't melt. It's that same kind of silicone they use to make the hand things that you take stuff out of the oven with. The
right.
high temperature silicone. It's not going to hurt it at all. But yeah, I mean, this one, like I said, was only $50, and it's worked fine. I just open the app once in a while and look at the temperature and make sure I'm at the right range. Or if you're anywhere near it, it makes a beeping noise when it's ready. I mean, you can audibly hear it on the back deck from inside.
And well, most of the ones that I was researching looked at, there's usually about a 2 to 5 degree temperature fluctuation. Is yours about that way? Depending upon the weather outside.
While it's cooking?
Yeah.
Yeah.
I mean, depending on the weather outside. I mean, obviously, if it's like a sunny day, it fluctuates because the heat hits the grill, or if it's raining, it cools it down.
No, not necessarily. It has more to do with the pot and where the pellets fall when they hit the pot. That little ash pot on the inside.
Yeah,
As the auger dumps them out, sometimes they fall further away from the flame than closer. So that's what the fluctuation is for.
Okay. And now one last question on that: when you shut yours off, how do you shut yours off? Because the guy, when I bought it from him, he told me that basically you have to turn it off, but leave it plugged in and let it kind of finish what it's got in the auger.
Yeah, don't unplug it. Don't unplug it immediately because it has to go through a shutdown process. So mine has an off button that I press, and when I press it, it actually has a counter that counts from 5, and it blinks as it goes, and it takes about a minute and a half because it counts down, and when it gets to the next level, it has levels, but it eventually when it gets to the one is gone, it's off, but it's still plugged in. I leave mine plugged in all the time. It doesn't hurt it. Yeah, it don't hurt it. Yeah.
Even with like rain and stuff like that, you keep it plugged in?
Don't hurt it at all. If you have an outdoor plug, it's not gonna hurt it at all. The outdoor plug usually has by code, they have to have that little flap on it.
Yeah, the little GFI. Oh, the flap. Yeah.
Yeah. But they're fine outdoors. Outdoor plugs are made for that.
Okay. Well, we actually do have an outdoor plug, but it's not working right now. We got to get somebody to look at it. So right now I've just got it plugged into the garage.
With an extension cord?
Well, right now I don't because I just got it. But yeah, I'll use an extension cord and roll it out to the patio.
Okay. So one of the problems with electricity is when you use an extension cord, a lot of times, especially if you use a cheap one, the size of the wire is very small. They have ratings based upon how thick the wire is, and the smaller the rating, the less current they can carry. And if you use too cheap of a wire in that situation, it will cause a fire in your wire.
Okay, well, I have an outside graded extension cord.
Okay, well, then you should be fine.
I don't have the cheap little like dollar store extension cord. I have one of the big.
Yeah, I'm just saying, if anybody out there is listening to this, don't use the cheapest cord because you will have a fire in your cord. They're not made for that kind of load. But usually, 14. I mean, they say 12 is the gauge you want to use for your outdoor wiring, but now they've downgraded it to 14, which is fine. 14 carries enough current. That's actually what I have on my back porch is 14. Most of your extension cords, though, are going to have like 16 to 20 gauge, and the higher the number, the smaller the wire.
Right. Like a bullet.
Yeah, anything like 16 gauge or 20. No, a bullet. The higher the number, the bigger the bullet.
What am I thinking of? I'm thinking of like earlobes, like earrings and stuff.
Shrimp.
Yeah, that's it.
The lower the number, the bigger the shrimp. Yeah. So, but yeah, so if you had like a 20 gauge wire running to your pellet grill and you started cooking on it, it may not work or it may cause a fire in the wire itself. So something to think about.
Well, like I said,
most of the cords that are
plug it straight in, but I do have an outdoor extension cord. So
yeah. Is it your outdoor plug is not getting any electricity at all?
No whatsoever.
So I test everything with like an old lamp or something that just has a light bulb that turns on. And if it's not getting electricity, then usually it's something to do. You have to look back at the line and go, okay, first off, is it attached to the wire, and then if the answer is yes, then you go, okay, what is that attached to? And you have to just kind of go back in the line. Sometimes it's sometimes it's just a fuse, or like if you go to the fuse box.
I checked the fuse box. That was the first thing I did when we moved into the house and found out it wasn't working.
Well, you guys are renting.
No, we're owning.
You're owning?
We're purchasing.
Okay. Never mind.
She's got a friend of hers that her husband, he's really, really smart with this kind of stuff.
Yeah.
So I was gonna help him with his Fire Stick.
Yeah.
And he was gonna come over and look at the electrical for us.
Oh yeah. I mean, just as easy as that is for you, it's that easy for him.
Right, exactly.
Yeah, he'll go, oh, that's all you got to do. And you go, oh. But like, watch him do it because you can pick up some tips and you'll be like, okay, I can figure that out.
I did switch an actual. We had a electrical cord a plug that didn't work in the old house that we lived in, and one side wasn't working, but one of them did, and the other one worked completely. But I couldn't get the plug, so I switched the plates.
Yeah, I mean, all you got to do is
so the GFI would be on the other one.
Well, all you got to do is like turn off the circuit breaker and just actually change the plug out because it may be a bad plug. Plugs do go bad. I mean,
and so I did do that once.
Yeah.
So I played a little bit with it without getting shocked, which I was very impressed because
I got adventurous with it, and I had my dad show me how to wire something in the attic with some lights, and from that I learned how to wire my back porch. So I actually wire the back porch.
Oh, yeah, I saw what you've done to the back porch. It's amazing.
Yeah. So, I mean, it's just, all it is, I mean, you just got to be real careful because you don't want to hurt yourself or cause a fire, you know?
Yeah. Oh, I've been shocked before. It's not something you want to do.
Shock the monkey. I had to throw in the monkey there.
You had to.
Yeah. So anyway, I think that covers everything I wanted to talk about. I had notes written down. I am looking into new filming equipment for the podcast whenever I have people here. And there's a YouTube page called Think Media. I'd like to give them a shout out. They do a lot of product reviews, a lot of video reviews, a lot of reviews on equipment and stuff like that. And when you called or when you set this up, you were like, I'll be on in like an hour. I watched a good hour of them reviewing different cameras and stuff. And I was like, oh, really? They were the ones that showed me how to do the trick with the thumbnail images in the YouTube thing where you have the words. There's a guy that showed me how to do that using Instagram on your phone to do it. I was like, oh, that's cool.
Using like the picture edit?
The picture edit where you can like turn the picture and then have the words and then put an image in the corner. And the more I watch that, the more I think, oh, I could do a lot more with this if I just continued with it. I mean, because they show you a lot of behind the scenes stuff that a lot of people in their world know, but most people aren't willing to share. And they're just like, yeah, we make content, showing people how to make content. And I'm like, cool. So big shout out to Think Media. It's 2:44. We got 2 hours until the SpaceX launch. I'm excited. So I'm going to watch that. My wife apparently is taking a nap. I just got an update on my phone.
You got an update that she's taking a nap?
Yeah. It's well, you know, the whole hurricane thing is off the coast, whatever, you know, tropical storm.
Is it still here or did it pass by already?
It passed by you guys. It's actually passed by here now. I'm looking at
it should be in Charlotte by now, I believe.
Yeah, I think once it hit land, it took off in a hurry.
That's what I'm saying. Like I woke up this morning and I heard about it, and then I right before I got on the podcast with you, I was talking to Christy, and I'm like, yeah, we've got a tropical storm out there. I opened up the radar, and it already passed by us.
Yeah. Well, they say this is going to be a very active season, and we've already had 2 off the coast of South Carolina. So, yay!
Yeah, I know. Trust me, and I'm not exactly happy about it. You know, I work on oceanfront.
We should change the name of our state slogan to be like "Wild and Wet and Windy" or something like that. You know, I did see the image today of another shooting last night. 2 more dead in Myrtle Beach.
Really?
Yeah. People are posting funny memes about the shells in North Carolina, and actually shells.
Yeah, I saw that.
The shells in Myrtle Beach, and it's gun shells.
Yep, I saw that one. This has been a real rough week. They've had 2 shootings, 3 shootings that I knew of, and now you're telling me about one that I haven't even had a chance to look at my phone yet. Yeah. Like I literally just woke up when you texted me, basically.
I went down to Charleston Monday with a driver.
They had a shooting not too long ago.
Really?
right
Well, I
down,
mean,
right downtown.
that's the kind of stuff you'd expect from Spurl Avenue, not from downtown. But
It was downtown. My girlfriend's daughter, Chris Bailey, her boyfriend works at a place called Uptown. It's a bar. It's a real big bar downtown, and it was literally right around the corner from his job.
I was downtown on Meeting Street Monday morning at about 9:00, and I stood in the middle of Meeting Street for 5 minutes and didn't see a single car.
Really?
I don't know if people were hungover from the night before and just not up and about yet. Because as the day progressed, they got a lot busier. But yeah, about 9:00 in the morning, I stood on the middle of Meeting Street for 5 minutes and didn't see a car come. I was like, wow, this is really weird.
I mean, we were there later in the evening. We went on the 14th to Charleston because it was Bailey's 21st birthday.
Yeah, how was that?
It was good. We just basically we went down to, we took a big walk downtown by the Battery and all that.
Yeah.
And then we went by her boyfriend lives in Charleston. He's from Charleston, and we went by his old school downtown by the Battery and all that.
Yeah.
And then we had dinner. There was a place out on James Island that she wanted to go for her birthday with some friends of hers from college. And we went out and had a couple drinks with them and got some food. And then me and Chrissy drove back, and they stayed out and went out to Uptown, which is the bar that he worked at.
Yeah.
And but I mean, everything was still social distancing. I mean, like every place we stopped at, you had to have no more than 6 to 10 people at a table. It was an interesting time to do a 21st birthday kind of thing. But she handled it really well, and she had a good time supposedly. So
yeah, we it was weird because downtown, like, they had a restaurant we were delivering to. They had some outdoor seating, but they also had indoor seating. And while we were there delivering, there was probably 12 people outside. There was no way they could social distance because they were really tight together. And we actually left there, realized that we'd missed an item, and we went to take it back like 2 hours later. And it was over 100 people standing outside of this place. And I was like, well, I guess it's over.
yeah.
I didn't see one person wearing a mask all day. I was like, well, Charleston's like, it's on, baby.
Oh,
So,
you want to know where it's on? Come on down to Myrtle Beach.
oh, yeah. Yeah.
Did you happen to see any pictures of the beach from Memorial Day?
I saw someone posted a video of a bunch of people stopped in the middle where the pavilion used to be on golf carts.
Yep.
And
That's actually right. That's right before the shooting happened.
Yeah, they parked like, I don't know, 30 golf carts there, and everybody's out dancing around. And I was like, whoa.
They closed off the streets. Basically, you couldn't get through. Both going north and south were blocked up with golf carts, and everybody was dancing and whatever. And it was, kind of, but at the same time, the cops had been called down there. Well, there were 3 or 4 cops that were assigned to that area, and they literally said we were outnumbered. We didn't want to. We couldn't do anything.
Yeah.
And then an hour later, there was the first shooting at Riptides. And then another 15, 20 minutes later, there was the fatal shooting down on the corner of 10th and Ocean Boulevard, where it was the gang related from Chesterfield.
I work with a guy who is he was part of a motorcycle gang, and they were kind of a rough and rowdy crowd, but he was like, for the most part, it's not a big deal. He's like, but he said there's something happening with these younger kids that they don't know how to interact with each other. He said, when we were younger, like, if you had a disagreement with somebody, you could have a fist fight with them, and then you may end up being friends with them later. And he said, but nowadays, if anybody has a disagreement, it's like, I'm going to get my gun and shoot this place up. And he goes, I'm just so tired of it. And he actually quit the gang. He'd been a member of this gang for, God, over 20 years. And he just quit. He was like, I can't deal with this anymore. This is ridiculous. He was just like, I like the stuff that we were doing for the community. I like doing the charity runs. I like, going and visiting folks at the old folks home or the hospitals and stuff like that. And he's like, Toys for Tots kind of program was fun to do. He's like, but there's no sense in this craziness between these kids.
Well, the sad thing is, this wasn't even the bikers. These were just people who came to the beach for Memorial Day weekend because they've been locked up in their houses for long. I mean, they technically moved the Atlantic Bike Week to Labor Day weekend. So there weren't any bikes. There were very few bikes.
Well, what person goes on vacation and is like, let's see, I got beach towels, sunscreen. Where's my gun?
Yeah. That's what these kids were doing. And supposedly this was a Bloods and Crips thing from Chesterfield that they brought to Myrtle Beach. And as I said, this was not bikers at all. So, I mean, it's just, I I feel blessed that we moved away from the town of Myrtle Beach.
Yeah.
I live down in Myrtle's Inlet now. I mean, don't get me wrong. There's crime here as well.
Yeah, but that's mostly hippies, trying to steal for food.
For the most part.
You got one or two meth heads, but I mean.
But for the most part, you're right. But at the same time, I still work in Myrtle Beach, so I still have to travel to Myrtle Beach.
Yeah.
And I'll be honest with you, man, I really just don't want to have to ever go to Myrtle Beach anymore.
Well, it's interesting because you used to work in New York, and now you're like.
Well, I was in White Plains. It was White Plains, New York. It wasn't, downtown Manhattan, but
yeah,
it was 40 minutes north of the city. But yeah, I mean, it was tough there. But I mean, you never had any of this kind of stuff. I mean, every single year it's getting worse and worse here in Myrtle Beach.
I wonder, like, I had this conversation with somebody, I forget who, but I wonder, like, if there's such a thing as the multiverse, I wonder if we're all living a version of our own life, and in our own version, other things happen to other people, but we get to watch it.
Well, now, I'm sorry, go ahead.
And in our own version, like, we hear about these catastrophes and things that happen around us, and they happen to everybody, so that you get to experience all of the emotions of joy, fear, anger, sadness, elation, love, kindness, all of it. You get to experience all of it in your version.
Well,
no one is aware that they're in their own version.
Well, I was saying, is it or is it like, are we kind of like in the Matrix, and that's the program's running, and that's saying, okay, now we need to see them, how they react to this kind of catastrophe.
Yeah, because like I said in the Matrix, we made the first couple perfect, and people rejected the idea because it was too perfect. We had to make it flawed.
Exactly. So are we running a program, and they're just checking to see how we react to certain things? But on the other aspect, you were just talking about, I don't know exactly. I have to do the more research when I read it, but supposedly there's some people that did this experiment recently within the last week or so, that they have almost proven that there is a parallel universe, and the universe there is actually going in opposite time.
So I could be 20 again?
Yeah. But know what you know at 40.
Wow.
There's a concept, right? It's kind of the whole Benjamin Buttons kind of,
I was really skinny then.
Yeah, me too. I was super skinny.
You had hair then.
And I had hair, yeah. I had lots of hair.
Up here.
But no, if you get a chance, I think it was either Friday or Thursday or Friday of last week, I think, but The Daily Show with Trevor Noah, he mentioned something about it, and I actually saw it on Facebook, but I didn't actually get a chance to read the article. But yeah, apparently they did like this big giant like weather balloon kind of thing, and somehow or another they found an actual like proof to some degree that there is a parallel universe, and it seems that that parallel universe, time is running backwards.
Interesting.
I thought you would find that interesting if you hadn't already heard about it.
Oh yeah. Well, and it's totally cool that, like, I love the internet meme that Jacob sent me about. We found out aliens are real and there's murder hornets. I got my $1,200.
Yeah. what now that we're getting ready to go into June, what level of Jumanji are we about to start on?
Yeah. Somebody posted one of a mosquito with like the predator's face on it. And it's like the new face eating mosquitoes. I was like, ah. I lost your voice. What'd you do? I can't hear you.
I can see you.
Oh, there we go.
There we go. Yeah, apparently my internet's not as stable as you, and plus I do have a little bit of a storm on top of me right now. But did you see the one with the murder hornets dead? And they said because they messed with the bees in South Carolina who were on meth and
Mountain Dew.
Red Bull.
Yeah. I watched the video of the praying mantis eating the murder hornet's brain as it was dying. That was terrifying.
I didn't see that one.
Oh yeah, slow motion. Well, not slow motion. He ate it pretty rapidly. But yeah.
Well, apparently there's a guy on YouTube or whatever. He did a show, and he gets basically his show is he gets stung by all these animals. He gets stung.
Yeah.
And he actually pulled one of these. It was like a couple years ago.
Yeah.
And he had one of these murder hornets bite him, and he was saying it probably one of the worst pains he's ever felt.
Yeah, he's been on Bert's podcast. He's a pretty interesting guy. He's probably been on Joe Rogan too. I actually did a podcast about that podcast. It was weird because okay, so when we were kids, we had stuff like we would have movies come out, and then there was the movie reviewers. So we actually had TV shows where they would talk about movies to come. Oh, these guys are going to Siskel and Ebert. Oh, we're going to talk about this movie. Okay, so as history has progressed, ESPN has become the thing where they talk about sports. Well, podcasts now have a version of their existence where there are people who talk about other podcasts. That's me, apparently. Bert made that comment on Two Bears, One Cave. He was talking with Tom, and he goes, can you believe there's people out there that actually are like comedy critics now and YouTube critics and podcast critics? And he goes, I think it's really cool for our business. And Tom was like, why? And he was like, just think about it. It's conversation. It's people focusing their attention on us, and it helps us grow our brand. And in turn, we're growing their brand. And he goes, and ultimately, it's just a way for us to connect to our fans, our comedy fans who are going to go pay to see us do comedy. And I was like, yeah, that's the whole point. Yeah,
I mean, I probably wouldn't be a Kreischer fan if it hadn't been for your podcast.
Or Joey Diaz.
Or Joey Diaz fan. You know, let's go. You know, us getting together as a group and going seeing him live in Atlanta, and all the fun that we had along with that. None of that would have happened without your podcast.
Joey's got some podcasts. I had heard him talk to. I've heard him talk to a few people about it in the past, but he did a series of podcasts or YouTube videos called Joey Karate, and it's him when he was like 400 plus pounds in his full karate gi, doing some karate moves, and he could barely lift his legs, but he's doing these moves, and Uncle Joey's going to show you how to do some karate, fool, you know, and he's and I watched it and listening to him talk, and I was like, oh, this is his podcast before the podcast. This is so cool. It was so fun to watch. I was like, man, I wish more people saw this. This would be great.
I wonder, kind of like the invention of the telephone, if there's actually video of the first person doing the first podcast, like the person who kind of came up with the idea.
Adam Curry was the original guy.
Now I heard that name. I think I heard that on Joe Rogan's podcast.
Yeah.
Actually.
Yeah. Adam Curry, the Podfather, they call him. Everybody calls him the Podfather. He's the one that came up. Him and a guy from Apple talked about it, and they came up with the name podcast. He was trying to do this when he left MTV. He was the MTV VJ. He had the white blonde hair that was like this.
Yes, I remember you talking about now.
And he said that he had Tourette's. And while he's doing the interview with Joe, he keeps twitching his eye and his head. And I was like, what the hell's wrong with this guy? He talks about it, and he says, he said on MTV, the longest I had to talk on camera was about a minute and a half, and I could control it for about a minute and a half. He said I could say my line, get out of there, and as soon as they go cut, I'm back to me. He goes, but I had that problem since the beginning. He goes, but I got the job because I could deliver lines, and I was willing to work for nothing, which MTV didn't want to pay him anything. So, but yeah, he had the idea for a podcast before it was a podcast, and he said that he actually went to MTV and he said, hey, I bought a .com for MTV.com, and they were like, we're okay. We have AOL. He was like,
right. It was actually
this is going to be something.
Now I remember it was your podcast talking about this.
Yeah.
Because I remember it was he went to, was it University of Minnesota, right?
Yeah. He went to the Golden Gophers.
He used their servers.
Like, can I use your servers to do this? And they were like, man, we're going to need $10,000. He goes, I ain't got $10,000. He goes, I tell you what, though, if you guys send me a shirt, I'll wear it on MTV. And they're like, okay. So there's images of him online where he's hosting the things on MTV, and he's wearing the Golden Gophers t-shirt. I was like, that's pretty smart, man. Yeah. Yeah. Really smart guy. But I don't think there's video of him doing that. I think that was pre-actualization.
Okay. I just, it's like, cause I mean, that would be interesting, I think.
Yeah. Oh yeah.
The idea,
And also, like, Tom Green was one of the first people that tried to do it from his home. He used to have the show on MTV, and then whenever they canceled him and he got cancer and all that stuff, he took his money and he invested in building a studio in his house. And he has like there's an early video of him interviewing Joe Rogan at his house in a fake studio in like a bedroom, where he has a desk that's set up with all these tons and tons of wires and stuff. And he had like buttons that he could press to go on the air live. and he could do it on the internet, but he had to pay for like extra bandwidth and stuff like that for people to watch. It was costing him a crap ton of money to make, but he was like, this is going to be the future. So he was also one of the people that had this idea. I mean, matter of fact, Tom Green was on Joe Rogan about, I don't know, maybe a month ago. You can find that one.
He's all furried up. I saw
Yeah.
pictures of it, but I didn't see it, but I saw pictures of it. And
It's
he was
a very interesting podcast to listen to.
He's got something new coming up, doesn't he?
Yeah.
Working on.
Yeah.
Yeah, I saw something on. I don't know if it was on Facebook or I saw it somewhere else, but I saw him like coming. He's been trying to make a comeback.
Well, he's talking to Joe about doing something on, because he lives in Canada. I mean, he's talking about doing something on their public television channel. He was like, one of the outlines of the channel is that they have to allow people to have content that they create themselves on a certain time period per day or per week or something like that. And he was like, I could just go to them.
Wayne's World Theory.
Basically, yeah. And he was like, I could make a public access show and just put it on regular TV again, and I'll pay for it. Joe was like, that would be awesome. He's like, Joe was like, that would be so awesome. He's like, I mean, why not? I mean, it wouldn't cost much. I've got the equipment. But yeah, I mean, people like Tom Green and Adam Curry and Adam Carolla and Mark Maron, all these guys that were just outside the box thinking of what could this be if I just did the work, or if I just figured out how to do it, or surrounded myself around people who knew how to do this. So
I actually just watched Mark's one of his Netflix specials. He's a comedian in spite of himself.
Yeah.
He doesn't really like what he does. I don't think.
Well, it's part of it's being Jewish, and part of the being Jewish is being very, very self-deprecating along the way. But even he gets the absurdity of the fact that he used to party with Kennison and almost died of a cocaine overdose, and now he's like got one of the top podcasts in the world, and he got to interview President Obama, and he's like, none of this makes any sense. Does this make sense to you? It doesn't make sense to me. I don't even know how I'm here. What is it? What does any of this mean, man? He's a pretty fascinating guy. If you ever get a chance to watch him on, there's a show on Netflix called Glow, The Gorgeous Ladies of Wrestling.
I'm actually waiting for there's a new season coming up, right?
Yeah, the final season's coming up.
I'm caught up current I'm waiting for the new season.
He's really good in that.
He is very good in it. I didn't know he was an actual comedian. I watched that show not knowing that he was a comedian until after the show, and then I saw his comedy special.
Yeah. I
thought he did a great job in that show.
He's really good. But he's also one of those people that he talked about it in the beginning. He just started in his garage. He put equipment in his garage and would turn it on and start doing it. I don't think he has video podcasts. I think all of his is just audio. But he had the president of the United States in his garage while he was serving as president to do the podcast.
That's crazy.
And he was like, he talks about that in other podcasts where people ask him about it. And he was like, yeah, he goes, Mark watched me on IFC. I had a show called Marin, and him and his wife used to watch me all the time, apparently. And he's like, all of a sudden, one day I get a phone call. The president wants to do a podcast with you. And he was like, what? He's like, he thought it was his buddy, Al Madrigal or somebody like that. Some other comedian pulling a prank on him. He's like, is this you? This isn't funny, dude. But they talked about doing it somewhere else. And apparently Obama was like, no, I want to do it in the garage. Like, we can do it there. And he said, literally, they flew Black Hawks over my neighborhood.
Oh, Jesus.
He said they had snipers going around to like my friends, my neighbors' houses and like setting up on top of their roofs so just in case something went wrong. He's like, it was really, really weird. He said, I panicked about what to wear. It was this whole thing.
Yeah. Well, that's very similar to like I was listening to Kim Jong on one of his comedy specials, and he was talking about meeting President Obama, but he had to follow Zach Galifianakis.
Yeah.
And he was talking about like, how do you follow Zach Galifianakis?
Well, Zach thinks way outside the box, and at a certain point, from what I can tell, he allows you to play with him in a way that you aren't prepared for sometimes.
I mean, do you ever watch Between Two Ferns just to get a kick?
Yeah.
I mean, it's amazing what he does. I mean, it's really. It was like a play on that whole what was it that Chris Farley did? Remember he would interview people and he was like, "Yeah, that's cool."
Yeah, yeah,
It was like he took that to a whole nother level.
he did. It's sort of a mixture of that and Letterman and a little bit of PBS access kind of deal, but also making fun of himself at the same time. You know, what was it? They actually did a thing on Netflix where they had a few episodes, and one of my favorite ones was he had Matthew McConaughey in, and the pipes burst in the middle of them doing the thing, and it like floods the room. But as the pipes burst, you know, or when they first walk in, he's like, "Oh, I didn't recognize you with your shirt on." You know, he keeps making this reference to him, and when it starts getting wet, he goes, "You should be prepared for this. You do this a lot, right?" You know, but
that must have been right after he did Magic Mike.
They flooded the room. Yeah, they flooded the room, and there's a scene where they're like swimming past the window because they've taped it closed, and like, "Oh, the door," and they're like, "I don't know how."
No, I don't think I saw that one. The one that I remember, and if I remember correctly, he did one with Will Ferrell, and they ended up actually getting in a fight on the on the screen.
Oh.
I mean, it's just, you know, the first time I remember seeing him, it was I can't remember what the name of the movie was, but he was like it was Ice Cold, I think it was called.
Ski Resort.
No, it wasn't called Ski Resort, but it was about a ski resort.
Yeah.
But that was the first time I ever remember even hearing his name.
Me too. Yeah.
And then all of a sudden he was in the politician.
The Hangovers.
The campaign with Will Ferrell about the North Carolina governor.
Yeah.
And I was just in and then of course the Hangover kind of put him on the map big time.
Yeah.
But I was just amazed. He thinks comedy in a different way than most people.
Yeah. And you know the weird part is he came up in comedy at the same time as Bert and Tom Segura and all these guys, so they know each other like behind the scenes, like they're buddies and stuff. But I've heard him on some serious podcasts where he talked about, you know, losing weight and going back home to North Carolina. He's from North Carolina. He owns a farm. You know, he's like, I got a wife and kids now, and he's like, there's no need to be the fat guy that falls down a lot anymore. I can do other things. And then I think shortly after that is when he did the movie Meet the Joneses or The Joneses, I think is what it's called.
The Joneses, yeah.
Actually, Michelle's sister Adrian was in The Joneses. I don't know if you ever watched it. Yeah. Did you ever watch it?
Well, I watched it. I know you mentioned on one of your podcasts the fact because Alex was like, "Yeah, we'll get somebody," because you wanted to get like Hollywood's perspective of how we're going to handle new movies and new TV shows in this epidemic where we couldn't be able to film anything.
Yeah, she got back to working. They were already working on the project.
Or were they? So you didn't get a chance to talk to her?
No, I mean just passing by on the phone kind of deal. But actually, I dropped the ball on one of those things because I think she texted me at a certain point, said, "Call me later," and I didn't. I flaked. But anyway, yeah, she was in the movie whenever they go at the end to see the bad guys at the restaurant. She's the hostess that sits them and they're like, we're here to see so and so, and she's like, yeah, follow me, and he's like, oh, we get to go over here, and she's like, no, you get to go to a private room, and she takes him somewhere else. I didn't even recognize her. I was like, wow, they got her really made up. That's really cool. But yeah. But anywho,
yeah,
fun stuff.
Well, not a bad way to spend an afternoon.
I had somebody reach out to me. An ex-Navy SEAL wrote a book about God, what is this thing called? I feel like a jerk if I don't at least mention the guy's name. They reached out to me and he wants to be on the podcast.
Oh wow. That'll add some lights and hits to your podcast that normally wouldn't be.
Let's see. Former Navy SEAL Tom Shea from Greenville, North Carolina. He wrote a book. He wrote 2 books. His most recent book is 3 Simple Things, Leading During Chaos. His first book was a New York Times bestseller, The Bourne Legacy. He apparently was in the Navy SEALs. He has a Silver Star, a Bronze Star for valor, and multiple valor awards in combat. He wants to talk about for those struggling due to the impact of the COVID-19 pandemic. Pretty interesting. No, his first book, I'm sorry, was Unbreakable, A Navy SEAL's Way of Life, that he apparently wrote in 2015. But yeah, so his publicist, I guess, reached out to me and she was like, hey, just kind of curious if you'd like to have him on the podcast. Love to talk to you about it. And I'm like, what?
Yeah, one, of course.
My first question was, how do you even know about me? I mean,
Dude, you're getting out there more than you think, man.
I guess. Yeah, listen, that was the idea. Word of mouth, right? I know 100 people, you know 100 people, so on and so forth. Who knows?
It could be the shirts. People walking down the street, hey, what's that shirt?
I hope it's just a conversation. Like
I hope so as well. I mean, I've gotten you a couple listens because of conversations.
Like his conversation would be very interesting to a lot of people. That is the conversation basically that I've been having with everybody. But, you know, combat survivor, you know, what it's like to deal with this. He's wrote a book about it. So apparently he's got a version of something he wants to talk about with it. So why not give him an opportunity, a platform or whatever to promote his book, talk about it, and, you know, have an opportunity to at least have a conversation about what it's like dealing with this stuff and how to move forward. Because there's a lot of people still struggling. I mean, there's still people who not only are dealing with the medical effects, but also the financial effects. I mean, I don't know how it's going to be going forward, but I think if you're financially in a position to invest in something, probably right now is your best time to invest because things are about to rebound in like a huge whiplash format.
And that's a friend of mine mentioned that as well. Like, I mean, he's been doing some day trading, and he's literally like every day, like it's just booming bigger and bigger.
It's the Wild Wild West. It's you know, if other people like me, when this started getting real bad and your hours got cut, you turned off your 401k, and then when things started getting better, you turned on your 401k. Well, that means money's investing everywhere. If you're trapped indoors and now you're not, and you can go purchase, you've been sitting on your hands for a while and you're like, I just want to get back to work. And then when you get back to work, you're like, now I want to buy the thing I've been waiting on. So you go out and you buy it. Well, that just makes everybody's money go up. So.
I had to go to Lowe's yesterday to pick up something. And I literally, as I was pulling in the parking lot and watching all the cars in the parking lot still, I was like, I wish that I'd have been smart enough to put some stock money into like Lowe's or Home Depot before this thing started.
Yeah.
You know that their profits are soaring right now.
Yeah. Or those home food delivery places like, you know, HelloFresh or Blue Apron or something like that. Jeez. I bet they blew up. I mean, in that small company with a smiley face, I forget the name of it. It's
Generally.
The one that is named after that place in South America. I forget what's it called. Amazon. Oh yeah, Amazon.
Oh yeah, well yeah. That was they always try to say like if you would have invested $5 in Amazon 10 years ago, you would be a millionaire right now.
Joe and Kevin Hart in that podcast, they find an image of Bezos sitting at his desk in like some crappy office furniture in his crappy office with literally a handwritten sign about behind him, Amazon.com with magic marker. And he's got his glasses on and paperwork stacked up here and there and like this laptop open and this computer open. And he's like this. And I'm like, holy crap. Who'd have thought that guy with an idea?
Have you seen the South Park episode? It was like a 3-part episode about Amazon and Bezos.
No.
It's good. You should check that out.
Yeah. I did watch what did I watch? Oh, I already talked about that crap. I watched
What's the new series that you made a comment on Facebook the other day that's coming out on Netflix? It's about the people who have basically been alive forever and they're like this elite squad.
Oh. Yeah, what is that called? I don't even remember.
Was it NX or something like that?
I don't remember.
But it was almost kind of like what was the name of the movie that had Angelina Jolie and she was trying to train that kid? It was kind of like that. Like they'd been around for years and years, and they did like all these like special missions.
Yeah, Charlize Theron is supposed to be the
she's like the lead character.
Yeah, it looks really cool. I don't remember the name of it. It looks cool. There's another show that I'm super excited about. This is their final season. It's a show called Dark.
Yeah, you were saying you mentioned that one as well. Apparently, the dubbing is really bad.
The dubbing is terrible. A lot of people say it's better to watch it in German with the English subtitles because then you get their actual voice and then it's easier to follow that way. Plus, when you're reading the names, it kind of makes more sense when you're reading the names. I didn't do it that way. I watched it with the dubbing. Season 1 is a lot of you scratching your head going, what's going on? Until the very end, you're like, whoa, what? And then when you watch season 2, there's a ton of special effects that play into a certain part of it that when you watch it, you're just going to be like, your head is going to explode. And there's a twist at the end where you're literally going to jump off the couch and go, "Are you kidding me?" It's just.
Well, see, I've got to finish because everyone does basically that I've seen has been doing the same thing with Ozarks, the final. So I'm almost to the end of Ozarks, and apparently, like I had one girl post she needed therapy.
Oh, God, yeah.
And apparently, they're not going to renew it. There was a list of things that are not being. Apparently, it's not being renewed.
What?
That's what I've heard. Again, it could change, but apparently it's not being renewed for another season.
Well, that doesn't make any sense.
I don't know if I don't know if it left it hanging where it could be another season, or because like when people, like I said, people are literally like going out of their minds talking about they need therapy and how like they didn't see that coming, and so I'm excited, but every time I can't get to watch it because I won't watch it without Chrissy because I'm not that kind of person.
Oh no, the final bit of it. You're going to stare at your screen as the credits roll and just be staring at it going. I stared at the screen. I watched all the credits. I was just like, holy cow.
So, I'm so excited to watch it. I just have to wait for it. So
I wanted a pillow. I wanted to be able to pull a pillow up and just look over my pillow.
Oh, goodness. All right. Well, my dogs are getting ready to bark up, and it looks like the girls are back home. So
okay.
I'm probably going to say, bye-bye,
right.
Mr. I apologize. Thank you so much for the podcast. It's been fun.
Yeah, bud.
We'll do it again soon, hopefully.
Thanks for being on. Appreciate it. Everybody else out there, thanks for watching. Remember to rate, review, subscribe, share with your friends, and cue the cow.
So I want you guys to give me more likes. Give me more